Last time, David Wood was sick, and then I got sicker. The jihadis inspired a book this thick, and now they've made it thicker. But we are back with the news real quick, and next time, we'll be quicker. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It's This Week in Jihad, another bravura episode of your favorite YouTube program. I am your host, Robert Spencer, and we have with us tonight as a very special guest, the inimitable, the unique, the one and only, the magnificent Dr. David Wood.
How you doing? So, been sick, eh?
Yes, sir. It's been, this is why there's been no Jihad the last couple weeks. Because when we don't watch it, it does not happen. And so I have been just trying to get through. And the jihadis, very obligingly, took a couple weeks off. But unfortunately, they are back. And so are we. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. When they come back, we come back stronger.
They're like this. They're like this. David and Robert have COVID. Since all of the journalists in the world refuse to report what we're doing, and since we're obviously trying to get attention to what we're doing, and they're the only ones who report on it, stop all jihad until they're better.
Yep, they did. We had 2 quiet weeks in the world. It was unprecedented for 1,400 years. And as you know, in the history of jihad, it's all chronicled. But as we were discussing before we started tonight, the new edition is going to be the history of jihad from the point of view of the Council on American Islamic Relations. It's going to be a little 10-page pamphlet about people going to the gym and getting their kids to school on time.
I stopped to smell a flower today.
That's David's
That's
jihad.
my jihad.
This is going to be probably the best-selling book that I'll ever write. The history of the real jihad, as according to Muslim groups in the United States. And then Aisha took her kids to school. Chapter 6. And then Muhammad worked out when he didn't feel like going to the gym.
Robert, Aisha didn't have any kids.
Yikes, wrong Aisha.
Because she got married to Muhammad, and he died when she was 18. And for some reason was really fertile when he was with Khadijah, and then not fertile at all, except with his slave girl Mary the Copt. And other than that, didn't work out. But then she's a widow from the time she's 18. Because, as you know, Muhammad wouldn't let anyone marry his wives after him. Wonder why. And then, yeah, so the mercy to all creatures left her a widow forever.
The mother of the believers was childless. There's a lesson in that, ladies and gentlemen, if you can discern it. Now, anyway, we got a lot of jihad here, David. I've only gone back a week, but there's still quite a lot of jihad, and quite a lot of it right here at home, in the land of the free, in the home of the brave, the United States of America, where we all know that Islamophobia is the big problem and there is no jihad. But there was a young man from Wells, Maine, way up there at the top of the nation, who did not get the memo. A young man named Trevor Bickford. Trevor Bickford converted to Islam a year or so ago. And this past week, he went to Times Square in New York City, and he shouted something. David, it's up to you to tell us what he shouted.
Now, if this were names of potential jihadis, Trevor would not have been on this.
Yeah,
I would not have had Trevor on the list. But when it comes to what they say, once they've converted and become jihadis, then this thing turns out to be surprisingly accurate. Let's find out.
It says, I think it says, can't quite make it out. Allahu Akbar?
Allahu Akbar, something like that.
Huh. I'll tell you something about Trevor Bickford. No, I did not see a single news report that gave us a different name for the man, but I would be willing to bet millions, all the millions that that the Islamic groups say that I have made doing this. I would be willing to lay them all on the line that he has another name that he goes by. And it's interesting to note that in this connection, because I don't know if alert viewers may have noticed, David, that your wheel, every choice says the same thing. Now, there's a remarkable uniformity in this. Trevor Bickford went to Times Square. He stabbed 2 cops. Where did he stab the cop, David?
I'll just go with neck.
There again, you knew he stabbed the policeman in the neck. You knew that he said Allahu Akbar. If you had never heard this story and never heard of Trevor Bickford before, you would still have gotten those right. There's a remarkable uniformity in these stories. And it is also 100% certain, not 95, not 99, not 42, but 100% certain that Trevor Bickford has a name that is Arabic, that he prefers to go by, although it went entirely unreported. Now, here again, Christians have names of all kinds, in all ethnicities. Jews, same thing. Hindus, Buddhists, there's a variety of nomenclature, to use the term of art in this regard. But when it comes to Islam, converts are generally expected the world over to take an Arabic name. And they will always say, a Christian, when he's trying to make a bold declaration of his faith, he may say Jesus is Lord. He may say, long live Christ the King, like they did in Mexico during the persecutions in the 30s. May say, the Lord liveth, any number of things. But you always know that a jihadi says this one thing, Allahu Akbar, and that he strikes the neck. And the uniformity is astonishing in Islam, that everybody becomes a pseudo-Arab, takes an Arabic name, and everybody says these same things when they go jihad, and hits in the same place when they go jihad. And yet we are told that it's diversity to turn a blind eye to this remarkable uniformity and act as if it's a wonderful thing.
It is interesting how how do Muslims not see this? That this is just an Arabic-centric, whatever you want to call it. But it's the idea that the creator of the universe, his biggest goal in life, apart from the virgins in paradise and so on, his biggest goal is for you to live and think and walk and talk and eat and even go to the bathroom like a 7th century Arab. That's your goal in life. I have to do this. And so, yes, my name is no longer Trevor Bickford. It's Durka Muhammad Jihad Abdullah, right? It's something like that. And then I have to dress like that, and then I have to go hack people up like that. And I'm just imagine if the final prophet had been Japanese or something, and people are walking around in kimonos and stuff like that all the time now.
That would be the same kind of thing.
Yeah, it'd be the
That's
same thing.
Exactly
we'd look at it. Yeah, we'd look at that and we'd go, "That's weird." What's interesting is that if you just read the Quran, the basis for Muhammad being a prophet who spoke Arabic was just that, according to the Quran, every other culture already had their own prophet in their own language, and they've got their own revelations. and the Arabs were just the last people. They're just so Muhammad's the seal of the prophets just because he's last. I mean, just because the Arabs were last. Every other group had their prophet already, and all that was left were the people of Arabia. They were just last in line. So Muhammad's the final prophet. Now everyone has their prophet, and yet the people who follow the final prophet say, "Oh, we all have to again live and breathe and think and act and walk and talk like this particular culture," even though supposedly everyone had their prophets.
Yeah, supposedly. And yet maybe they were all Arabs too, in the Islamic scheme of things, since they were all Muslims.
Yeah, they all speak Arabic in the Quran.
Moses exactly. And if Moses and Jesus and all the rest of them were Muslim prophets, then I suppose they were Arabs too. But you got to wonder, why is the creator of the universe, who created all this diversity among human beings, why does he insist on this strange cultural uniformity among the people who supposedly worship the only true God? It really doesn't follow.
Little tangent there as well. Notice the hypocrisy. Because I hear from Muslims pretty much every day. But the New Testament is in Greek. Jesus would have spoken Aramaic. Why is it in Greek? Well, Jesus is speaking Arabic in the Quran, so I mean.
Yep.
Greek, at least, was a very common language in the first century.
Also, it's cooler. It's cooler than the other languages. You got to admit.
It's super cool.
It's very cool. Anyway, pardon the chauvinism, ladies and gentlemen. It's late, and we've been sick. There are a lot of aspects to this Trevor Bickford story, David. Another one is, Trevor. Whatever his name really is.
But my friends call me T-Rex.
Yes, Tariq Bickford, whatever it may be.
I only read a couple lines about him, but it was like he was like this great student and good athlete and all this, and then converted to Islam and decided to hack up some cops.
Yeah, that's basically it. And he left letters to his brother, who was in the Marines, and he told him, we used to be close, but now you joined the enemy. And I think, wait a minute, Trevor Bickford is born in Maine, grew up in Maine. Maine is the United States, as far as I know. And so how did a Marine in the United States Marine Corps become his enemy? Well, he converted to Islam. Now, nobody in the American government or law enforcement would say that to convert to Islam means that you have changed your nationality and become an enemy of the United States. And yet, all too many converts to Islam seem to get this idea. How is that, David? Why does that happen?
It's just one of life's great mysteries. Isn't that interesting though? Like you've got your family members and so on, and then we're all told, hey, if a person decides to follow Islam, that's just, religious choice and so on. Mm-hmm. But then they convert, and all of a sudden, like, his own family members are his enemies.
Mm-hmm. And what does the Quran say about that?
That is absolutely correct.
Mm-hmm. Even your father, even your brothers, if they're not in the club, then you got to hate them. Even Abraham in chapter 60, verse 4 says that to his father, there'll be enmity and hatred between us and you forever, unless you worship Allah. So in light of all this, yes, sir.
Oh, I was just going to say, I forget. Darn it. I haven't read this in a long time. If I recall correctly, Abu Bakr ran into his son, who had still been an unbeliever for a while or something like that, and said, and his son said, hey, if I had faced you in battle, I don't think I could have done anything. And Abu Bakr's like, I would have killed you. Mm-hmm. And then remember Mu'ayis and Hu'ayis, one of them converts and immediately follows Muhammad's order to go and kill, quote, any Jew who falls into your power. Kills a Jew. His brother's like, what are you doing? That's our buddy. And he's like, if the one who ordered me to do that ordered me to kill you, I'd kill you too.
And then he says, hey, wow, this is a great religion.
Yeah, he converts too. Surely Surely any religion that can convince you to slaughter your own family in the name of Allah must be the truth.
Oh man, yeah. You got to wonder about the reasoning of these people, but yeah, I always wondered about that guy. Anyway, I also wonder about the reasoning of Mr. Thomas Galati. Thomas Galati is the New York Police Department's chief of intelligence and counterterrorism, and he really ought to be the chief of unintelligence, okay? Because Thomas Galati doesn't have a clue. And I just watched his video, my jaw dropped. And also, it was noteworthy how uncomfortable he got when he's saying this. Thomas Galati, he said this. I transcribed this very carefully, David. And this is exactly what he said. He knew what he was doing. He knew why he was doing it. He thought that he probably would die as a result of carrying out this attack. During the attack, he did yell out, Allah Akbar. I believe he thought that this would be, suicide by cop, basically at the end of this attack. This is a distorted, version of him being radicalized and thinking what he's doing is right. Want to make sure that that's clear. He's not representing, the Islamic religion, but rather, a very, very small percentage of people that get radicalized. Thomas Galati, the Chief of Intelligence and Counterterrorism for the New York Police Department.
And I just want to say, bada boom, bada bing, no compulsion in religion, everyone,
Yeah.
If anyone kills a man, it's as if he's killed all mankind, oh!
Definitely, yeah. So this meatball goes to Times Square, and and he cuts a couple of cops, stabs one of them in the neck, but it doesn't have anything to do with Islam. All right, don't want you to get the wrong idea here.
Yeah,
but,
now, Robert, as far as the suicide by cop, there is something that people call suicide by cop. Namely, if you want to commit suicide, you just pull a weapon on a cop. But notice, you don't actually have to hack the cop at all. You just have to brandish a weapon and be coming at the cop, and you can of course be shot for that. And that's what people normally mean suicide by cop. But notice all the things you pointed out. That he's shouting Allahu Akbar and striking at the neck, so we can look and see the connection between his new ideology and what he actually did. But even the wanting to be killed while obeying Allah's command to slaughter the enemies of Allah, and this guy thinking this has nothing to do with Islam. I seem to recall, correct me if I'm wrong here, I seem to recall Muhammad promising an eternity of deflowering virgins to people who die while slaughtering unbelievers in the name of Allah.
Yeah, it's definitely in the Quran. It's in chapter 9, 111. What? It's right there. All you gotta do is open the book.
Bada boom.
Yeah, David, I was thinking about this. That the suicide by cop, he's doing a grave disservice to the people of New York when he says that. Because it ain't suicide by cop in that way. Suicide is if you're depressed, am I right? You're despairing. Your life is going down the toilet. And you're thinking, I gotta get out of here. That's suicide by cop. But seriously, this is not suicide by cop. He was not thinking, oh, I'm depressed, oh, I'm so upset, but I don't have the nerve to kill myself, I'm going to go and get the cop to do it. He's thinking he's going to get, as you noted, paradise and the virgins. And that's a very different thing. But this distinction, he's actively glossing over it and misleading people when he says he's not representing the Islamic religion. Well, sure, of course he's not representing the Islamic religion, but he's acting upon the teachings of Islam.
And it's notice that this bloodbath is built into the ideology in terms of you got these guys who convert, and Islam has this system of scales where, if your good deeds outweigh your bad deeds and this and that, but you don't know. Muhammad was told to say that he doesn't even know what Allah is going to do with him. So he doesn't even know what sort of justice he's going to have to face. And so you have no assurance of salvation in Islam. In fact, Abu Bakr, who's one of I think 25 people that Muhammad guaranteed would be in paradise. But even Abu Bakr, who'd been guaranteed paradise by Muhammad himself, even Abu Bakr said, if I had 1 foot in paradise, I would still fear Allah's deception. Meaning, Allah can deceive you even through his prophets. And that's true even according to the Quran, where Allah constantly boasts about being the best of deceivers, and where even according to the Quran, in order to get the Muslims to go out and fight at the Battle of Badr, Allah had to give Muhammad a dream that it was only going to be a few guys showing up to fight them. And so they all got confident. Muhammad got a dream that only a few people are going to show up to fight. And then they go out to fight. It turns out to be 3 guys outnumber them 3-1. And Allah's like, yeah, I had to trick you in order to get you to do what I wanted. And so that's the theology that Abu Bakr has encountered. And as far as that's concerned, it's like, wait a minute, Allah deceived the Jews into thinking that Jesus died. Allah just tricks and deceives people at will. So even though he's guaranteed me paradise, I have no idea if this God is lying. So there's this constant state of fear. You have no assurance, and yet the only, the guarantee that you have is, well, if you die in battle, that's a one-way ticket to paradise. I wish these guys would pay a bit more attention to Allah constantly bragging about being the best of deceivers, because maybe Trevor would stop and think, wait a minute, maybe Allah, who constantly lies in order to get people to do what he wants, is just lying about, me getting paradise if I slaughter these cops.
Trevor's in for a big surprise, but he's a young man. Might be a while. Anyway, there's a whole lot more jihad in the old US of A this week, David. There's an actually very strange story coming out of Las Vegas. I don't know if you heard about this one, but a man is facing terror-related charges after police said he rammed his car through a gate at a solar plant outside Las Vegas and set his car on fire, disabling the facility. It will be offline for 2 years, which is pretty serious damage. And he said, the only thing that's in the reports, he said when he was arrested that he did it for the future, which suggests that he's some kind of radical environmentalist, and he's hitting this what he maybe thought was a conventional power plant, although he was actually hitting a solar plant. But the wild card in this is that the gentleman's name is Mohammed Mesmarian. And so maybe Mohammed Mesmarian was thinking about a future caliphate, and that's the future he was talking about. But there's really no way to tell, because the news reports are so sketchy and so wary of saying anything that might reflect badly on Islam. There's just no way to figure out what's really going on.
He decided to strike at the necks of those solar panels.
Yep. Set his car on fire. It's a very strange story. He clearly had accomplices, because he set his car on fire, and then they found him about a half-hour drive away. And he didn't walk. Somebody drove him out there, but no answers from the authorities as to what's going on here.
Well, his name's Muhammad. Maybe Barack flew him.
Yeah, that's probably true, yeah, because he probably hasn't had a whole lot of fares lately, and maybe he picked this guy up. In Massachusetts, right after Trevor Bickford, or whatever his name is, went after the cops with a machete in Times Square, a man with the same kind of machete called a kukri knife. That's Kukri, a foot-long kukri knife. Same thing as the Times Square jihad he had. And he jumped out of an apartment window in Cambridgeport, Massachusetts, and attacked the cops when they arrived. And his name is Syed Faisal. And the Council on American Islamic Relations, our friends in Washington, they are very upset about this because Syed Faisal was shot by the cops. But I really don't know what they expect or what choice that the cops had, since he had this big foot-long machete and is coming at them. What are they going to do? Just stand there and get cut because they don't want to be Islamophobic?
Yeah, people see too many movies and they're just like, shoot him in the shin.
Yeah, not so easy when you're in the middle of the moment.
No, it's never easy with a moving target who's trying to hack you up.
Indeed. We've already kind of embarked on the dumb infidels category, but we got a lot of dumb infidels this week, David. The ever-popular stupid infidels category, ladies and gentlemen. We always get a lot of requests for this. A lot of people calling in, writing, contacting the This Week in Jihad hotline saying, give us more stupid infidel stories. So we got them queued up right now. Let's go to Germany. In Germany, there was a jihad plot just recently uncovered. A couple days ago, 2 Iranian brothers. And one of them's name is Monir J. They never say the last names in the German reports. And they were trying to obtain cyanide and ricin. It's pronounced ricin, isn't that right? Or is
that
it
is correct, sir.
Ricin? I don't know.
I think it's ricin.
I'm just a stupid infidel, David. I don't know. Anyway, ricin, and they were hoping to, quote, kill an indefinite number of people with them. But anyway, the interesting aspect about Monir J is that he came to Germany. He came to Germany in 2017 as an asylum seeker, and he claimed to be a Christian, saying that he was in danger in Iran because he was a Christian. Now, why on earth would he want to deceive the Germans about such a thing?
No idea, except for the fact that, according to Islam, you can deceive the unbelievers in order to kill and slaughter them. I mean, we already mentioned Allah bragging about being the best of deceivers, but you've got Muhammad saying that war is deceit. And we've already seen, going back to your buddy Trevor Bigford, that hey, as soon as you're in this camp, you view all these other guys as your enemies and so on. And how do you treat your enemies? Well, you deceive them in order to slaughter them. What's wild is, I mean, at some point, if you're the authorities, you have to realize, wait a minute, these guys who keep trying to kill and slaughter us, we're the ones saying, oh, they just want to escape the tyranny of back home, and they're in danger because they're Christians and so on. And then they try to Allahu Akbar us. Mm-hmm. At some point, you'd have to realize. See, here's the problem. Here's the problem with Islam, and it's the same over here. If you just someone who's not actually waging jihad, if you ask a Muslim, hey, does your religion advocate slaughtering me in the name of Allah? Lots of Muslims believe that the answer is no. Lots of Muslims believe, no, of course not. It's a religion of peace, no compulsion in religion, and so on. And so they actually believe that the answer is no, that they're not supposed to slaughter unbelievers in the name of Allah. But then you have people who actually believe that they're supposed to slaughter unbelievers in the name of Allah, but that they're also supposed to deceive you about it, according to the Quran. Smile in your faces while cursing them, in your hearts and so on. And so the answer is going to be the same, right? Whether it's a person who's telling you the truth or whether it's a person who's lying, they're both going to say the exact same thing. And the connection there is that if you have an asylum seeker, well, the asylum seeker may be a person who just wants to get out of his, crap hole country, Afghanistan or Pakistan or something like that, and come and, man, I just want to get away from these guys so I can come and work and mind my own business and not have these guys breathing down my necks about Sharia all the time. It might be someone like that, Or it might be someone who wants to come and just slaughter people, and he doesn't want to slaughter a bunch of people in Afghanistan. He wants to go to the land of the kuffar and slaughter them. Guess what? Those two guys are going to say the exact same thing. I just want to go there. I just want to escape oppression. I just want to get over there. They're going to say the exact same thing. And the authorities seem to have absolutely no way of distinguishing between the two, because notice if you started pressing them and asking too many questions, that would be Islamophobic. So you just have to let all of them in, no matter. So just everyone who says you just want to come and live in the West, you all get to come. And we understand that a percentage of you are going to slaughter people in the name of Allah, but it's just the price of diversity and tolerance.
Collateral damage. Celebrate diversity.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we got a lot more stupid infidels, ladies and gentlemen. Your ever popular stupid infidels category. Let's go to Sweden. Sweden, yeah. Majd Shada has been convicted of multiple times for offenses such as rape, assault, theft, and drug abuse. 8 convictions. Savagely beat, raped, and impregnated a young woman. However, Majd Shada was scheduled to be deported, and a Swedish court just canceled the deportation because he would be in danger back home in Syria. Now, I gotta wonder, David, why is it that these courts never seem to care about the Swedes who are in danger because Majd Shada is still there in Sweden? They don't seem to count. It's only that they care that this poor rapist and trafficker and criminal may have trouble in Syria. I bet he could take care of himself there, actually. But
yeah, and that's the other problem. That the people these countries take in are the people who are best able to survive, right? Mm-hmm. It's not, hey, let's take in this 85-year-old woman or this 2-year-old. It's let's take in all these 25-year-old men in their prime. Yeah. And these men leave behind the 85-year-olds and the 2-year-olds and the 3-year-olds and so on. But we have to protect these grown men who are best able to survive in a war-torn area. And we have to protect them at all costs, even if the cost is, a bunch of, Swedish women being raped and so on.
And speaking of all these crazy asylum procedures, we have one from the good old US of A yet again. Sayfullo Saipov is on trial, David, as we speak. You may recall Sayfullo Saipov back from 2017. On Halloween, he drove a truck down a bike path in Manhattan and killed 8 people. And he is only now on trial because the Constitution offers or promises a swift trial, and that's 5 years in America now. So Sayfullo Saipov, the sword of Allah, his name means, he is not at all repentant, and he has made it clear that he was following the orders of Allah, and that he would do it again if he got a chance. But it's also come out during the trial that he was in the United States, or he is in the United States, on a diversity visa. That the United States is not diverse enough, and so we bring in people who are of different races, ethnicities, etc., so as to make the United States more diverse, because diversity is our strength. And this fellow got into the U.S. that way. How much do you think that they vetted this fellow for jihadist sentiments when they were giving him his diversity visa?
Well, he was probably bragging about it, going, hey, I'm a jihadi, I just want to wage jihad. And they're like, oh, we know what that is. That's going to the gym. Hey, we got a future athlete here. He just wants to hit up Planet Fitness and get all shredded up. Bring him in.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. All right, shall we go over to London?
Wouldn't be dumb infidels without it.
It's quite right. Yes, indeed. Quite right, yes. Well said, sir, well said. In any case, we have... excuse me, the UK Home Office gave $238,000. That's 200,000 pounds. But whenever I think 200,000 pounds, I think, well, 200,000 pounds of what? So $238,000, okay, in real money. But the UK Home Office actually they gave this fellow Musharraf Hussain $238,000 for his organization, despite the fact that rather inconveniently he had voiced support for the Taliban. And I do believe that was in most dreadful poor taste, but he did do so, and they nonetheless handed over this money to him quite readily. And at this point, they began to engage in a cover-up, so as to conceal to the general public that they had misused the taxpayer funds in this manner. And of course, this is very, very characteristic of the UK Home Office, which of course has barred me and numerous other foes of jihad violence from entering the country, so as not to rile the friends of Musharraf Hussain as they are counting their Home Office money.
Now, Robert,
yes, jolly good, yes.
You and I have been doing this for a while.
Yes.
Talking about this stuff.
Quite right, sir. Quite right.
I've been doing this for a long time, and you were doing this before I was doing it. How many times have we seen various individuals and organizations collecting money or collecting donations or being given money, and then they turn out to be funding Hamas or ISIS or the Taliban or Al-Shabaab or something like that? How many times have we seen that?
Really, that does recur with dreadful regularity. It's at most upsetting. I must admit, it's rather dreadful how the public funds are misused in this manner.
And isn't it like it goes along with what you were talking about earlier with, okay, how many times do you have to hear someone screaming Allahu Akbar and going right for your neck before you say, this really looks like a pattern, maybe we should look into why there's this pattern? And it's the same idea where, okay, we keep catching people taking money from European sources or US sources and sending it to jihadis. Maybe we need to be careful handing over hundreds of thousands of pounds to someone. Maybe we need to double check before we hand this over. But you can't, because that would be Islamophobic.
Indeed.
And so you just have to just shut up and give these guys piles and piles of money.
And so and
if they do something bad with it, just try and keep it quiet.
Exactly. That's exactly it. But David, I've got to say, I'll make an offer here. I'm going to go out on a limb. We have not discussed this before the show, but if the UK Home Office is listening tonight, I just want to make an offer. Send David and me 200,000 pounds, and we will happily instruct the UK police and other relevant authorities on the nature and magnitude of the jihad threat. And you will get far more for your money and far more useful and effective information than you will ever get from Musharraf Hussain or his colleagues.
You know what? Heck with it. We'll do it for free.
Yeah, there you go. Because they ain't going to send over any money anyway.
Isn't it crazy how these? I mean, it's not just the fact that for this training and so on, we have to get people who support the Taliban, and we can't have anyone who actually knows what they're talking about. But I mean, it reminds me of the situation. It's weird. It reminds me of the situation with like Andrew Tate right now, where he's been bragging about all this sex trafficking stuff and abusing women for years, and then when he gets caught, they say, it's the Matrix coming after him. And you think, there's no way people are that stupid. Like, whatever else happens in this world, you cannot possibly be stupid enough to fall for this. And yet people are. But, that's one thing. It's one thing if it's a bunch of little, fanboys on the internet and stuff falling for a bunch of nonsense. Over and over again, it's political leaders, politicians, police, military officials, journalists, everyone falling for the same idea. Hi, anyone who's accurately going to report on jihad can't say anything about jihad, who will call you an Islamophobe. Who are we going to get to train us? Well, we want people who behind the scenes support the terrorists, but they say it's a religion of peace. In other words, the people who smile in our faces while cursing us in their hearts, those are the people we want training our officers to keep their mouths shut about jihad.
That's the sort of fellow we can trust.
And but it's the same thing. It's like, you can't possibly be that stupid. You can't. There's no way a human being can possibly be that stupid. Maybe once. Maybe if you were that stupid once and then you fell for it, and then you'd realize, okay, they got me there. Now I have to be really, really careful. There's no way you're just going to fall for this over and over and over and over and over and over, no matter how many times people get slaughtered on your watch, and yet they do it.
What was it that P.T. Barnum said, David? Didn't he say no one ever went broke overestimating the stupidity of the American people? And I think that goes doubly for the Brits. At least the British authorities. Not the fine British people who are watching us tonight, but the authorities, the politicians, the elites. I got more from Britain.
Hold on one second. What wasn't that the guy who charged people a quarter to see the Great Igris or something like that, and it was just an exit? I think that was P.T. Barnum. He had a door, right? He had a door, and he put up this sign, "See the Great Igris, blah, 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 blah. It's only a quarter." And you go in there, and it's just an exit. And he's like, well, that's what it means. It means exit.
Did he have the man-eating chicken, too?
No, I don't know.
You have the big sign of a giant chicken, and it's chasing this terrified guy, and then you go in, and there's this guy sitting at the table eating
man eating chicken.
Exactly.
Isn't that brilliant? It's like someone who's like, it's like, so he understood how stupid people are and that you could do this, and other people, jihadis, Andrew Tate, they've all capitalized on how stupid people can be.
Yep. So we got to stay in Britain for more stupid. We have the Rotherham, the Muslim rape gangs, and the rape gangs actually in the city of Rotherham, or Rotherham, I don't know, whatever, Rotherham, since Edinburgh is spelled Burgh, so you never know. Rotherham might be Rotherburg. Anyway, the counselor there, Maruf Hussain. Maruf Hussain was accused of attempting to cover up the fact that the rape gangs were mostly Pakistani Muslim men. And instead of being fired and being punished, he is now a diversity officer for the National Health Service. In other words, he's been rising in the British official hierarchy.
He'll be prime minister here in a couple of years. Watch.
Yeah, or at least deputy prime minister to Anjem Chowdhury. Mm-hmm.
And our new chief of police over here. We got Mohammed Hijab and Ali Dawa, and
yep.
What could go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong as we celebrate diversity so enthusiastically? Meanwhile, there was another Muslim in the UK, Tariq Namuz. And Tariq Namuz was actually prosecuted, oddly enough, as Islamophobic as that may be.
That's
because, yeah, I know it's very strange, but what happened was he sent 25,000 pounds. Pounds of what? He sent 25,000 pounds, which is probably upwards of $30,000, to ISIS, Islamic State Jihad terrorists. And he actually got that money. It wasn't his money. It was money he got from the British government for COVID relief, because he was a landlord and he wasn't collecting his rents and so on. And so, the government gave out money, as it did here, I understand. And so he took his 25,000 pounds and sent it to ISIS. Anyway, he was sentenced, oddly enough, to 12 years in prison for this, which means he'll probably be in prison for 2 or 3 years. And
prison dawa.
Exactly. And on his way to the prison, he said, "May Allah destroy you. May Allah destroy you. We will meet on Judgment Day. You are a Catholic, and you will end up in hell." And I thought that was interesting that he would say, "May Allah destroy you," to the authorities of the country that supposedly he is loyal to, supposedly he adheres to the laws. I mean, of course, he was committed this crime here, but lots of people commit crimes. It doesn't mean that they're traitors. And yet somehow this man doesn't seem to have loyalty to the British state, oddly enough.
And they were giving him piles of cash.
Yeah, man.
Wait, so let me get this straight, Robert.
Yes.
Let me see if I understand. Let me see if I understand this. Let's say you're a British citizen. British citizen, you go out, you work at your job, you head down to the mill, put in an honest day's work. You got to give your cut. I don't know what their version of Uncle Sam or whatever is, but you got to give your cut to the government. You give your cut to the government, and the government's
John
like,
Bull.
"Oh, let's." Huh?
John Bull. That's English Uncle Sam, big fat guy with a top hat.
Okay, so you got to give part of what you earn at the mill to John Bull, and then good old John, he's going to give it to jihadis to send to people who are slaughtering others in the name of Allah. Why? Why would they do that? I seem to recall, Robert, that Muhammad told his followers that it's not just the jihadi who gets his reward in paradise, it's the person who funds the jihadi. In other words, ladies and gentlemen, you've got a terrorist who goes and slaughters a bunch of people in the name of Allah. He gets the reward for doing that, but the person who gave him the money that he needed to carry out his attack gets the equal reward. So if you don't actually want to go and slaughter people in the name of Allah, you can be the person who gets money for them and gives them the money to do this. This is part of the religion. This is from Muhammad himself. And you got people who are doing it. And instead of British government or U.S. government or French government or any of these governments being smart enough and recognizing, hey, we got to be careful what we do with this taxpayer money. Nope, just keep giving it to the jihadis, and some of them will catch, and others we won't. And all the slaughtering that's done is ultimately funded by, my goodness, tax-paying citizens.
And they don't have any clue about any of this, because here again it would be Islamophobic.
Yeah, so. and you can't have us explain it, and you can't have anyone actually go through the sources to explain it to them. So yeah, we'll just get the Council on American Islamic Relations and groups like that to teach us about jihad. Again, you can't be this stupid. It's
Oh, actually,
it's
we
impossible.
can. Actually, sir, my good man, we can most certainly be this stupid, and we are. But to be fair, the British government is no more stupid than the French government and the German government. They are all equally.
I agree. They're all equally stupid and incompetent. I agree.
Indeed. Okay, so why don't we get a few stories out of France? I don't have stupid infidels out of France this week, but I do have a bit of jihad.
I bet they're there, though.
They're there.
I bet there are some stupid infidels there.
And they're named Pierre. But they have not been tremendously active this past week. In France, we had a man, I believe this was just today. Yeah, just today, as a matter of fact. January 11, 2023. A gentleman named, what was his name, David?
I'll go with Muhammad.
Very good. Amazing guess. Yes. And he went to the, I don't know how to say this, I'm sorry, Gare du Nord, something of the North.
I know that. It's croissant.
Yes, it's the Paris, it's a train station in Paris. In Paris. And we will always have Paris. I don't know if we will. But in any case, Muhammad took out a knife and he stabbed 6 people at the Paris train station while he was screaming,
Allahu Akbar.
You got it once again. He was not screaming, Vive la France. And that was just today. A few days ago, there was a gentleman from Tunisia who is suspected of killing his wife. And the cops showed up at his house to investigate the situation with his wife. And he attacked them, threatened them with a gun while he was screaming something, David.
It's either this MAGA country or Allahu Akbar. I'll go with Allahu Akbar on this one.
Yeah, I think that's probably the wise bet, and it turns out that is indeed what he said. Interesting story out of France as well. Just a photo. Actually, let me see if I can put it up here. Now that I have the technology, I sort of have rudimentary understanding of how to do this. Let's see if we can get this photo here, David. I'm not sure that I even remember how to do this, but such is the inefficiency of the technologically challenged. There it is. It's a photo of a man at a taco joint, and he's wearing a jersey for a soccer team, a football team, as they say over there. And the jersey, after the fashion of sports teams, it's got the name of the favorite player and the number. But in this case, the jersey says Mohamed Merah, 7. Now, you may recall that Mohamed Merah, back in, let's see, it was, I went off the story to get the picture. Oh, here it is. It was back in 2012, in March 2012, Mohamed Merah attacked young children at a Jewish school, and he murdered 7 people. And so this guy is a bloodthirsty, murderous jihadi, and somebody is wearing a fake football uniform with his name and number on it. It seems to me that for somebody to do that in France, they're just taunting the French at this point. Mm-hmm. With their own weakness. Their societal weakness and inability to stand up to the jihadis.
Yeah, so this would be like people walking around with jerseys with Osama bin Laden on them and so on.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Also in France, there was this fellow who, let's see, his name is Nael. I'm not quite sure what that's all about, but in any case, he tells his friend that when he was back in Syria, he beheaded people, and that he was in a jihad group. And he explained to the friend, this is how it was in the time of the Prophet. Now, how could he get an idea like that, David? That's ridiculous. Everybody knows that the Prophet was a man of peace, am I right?
Yeah, maybe he got all of his information about Islam from your books.
That must be it. That must be it. Because how could anybody get the idea that Muhammad, that gentle, cuddly fellow, could possibly be responsible for something like beheading people?
Yeah, I mean, you can't go to the Muslim sources because that would be Islamophobic. So all you can do is go to Karen Armstrong and John Esposito and the Council on American Islamic Relations, and you're not going to get that from anywhere. So must have got it from you.
That must be it. There's just no other book on the planet that can't even get it out, that would tell Muslims to be violent for Allah. There's no such book like that. It's only the work of Islamophobes.
Yeah, there's no, there aren't literally dozens of those books all around me right now.
Yeah, I got them here too. But anyway, also in France, an Afghan Muslim migrant came upon a jogger as she was just jogging along at 3:45 in the afternoon, a few hours before New Year's Eve, and a man wearing a jalaba, the long robe that you wore in Islamicize Me, and being this gentleman a migrant from Afghanistan, he stabbed her. Where did he stab her, David?
I'll go with neck.
Once again, you have shown an uncanny ability to determine the remarkable practices of jihadis. And ladies and gentlemen,
I need to go play Powerball right now.
Yeah, it's not just because David has a particular clairvoyant abilities. It's because the Quran is clear. When you meet the unbelievers, strike the necks. This is really not rocket science, but it's Islamophobic to discuss. And so most people are not going to tell you, you have to get it from us. Or you could just read the Quran, the critical Quran, available now. Anyway, sorry.
By the way, can you imagine how frustrating that would be? Right, like you're a jihadi, you're trying to make a point, and so how else am I going to make this? Like in the case of Trevor Bickford and stuff like that, I'm actually going to write out my reasoning. I'm going to be screaming Allahu Akbar, and I'm going to be striking at their necks so that it's completely impossible for anyone to miss my point. This happens over and over again on a daily basis, and no one ever gets the point.
Ever.
It'd be frustrating. That would be a funny video series where it's like jihadis trying to break through the American and European media, trying to get their point across. So they just keep killing and killing, like trying to make it increasingly more and more clear, and they just no one ever gets the point. It's like poor frustrated jihadis can't get their point across.
And besides Jeopardy, we could have Wheel of Fortune, and it spells out, jihad or Allahu Akbar, and people just can't get it, and they keep saying religion of peace or tolerance and love. Yes. Speaking of tolerance, let's go to Canada, to our friend Eunice Kathrada.
Wait, that's a funny idea. Like the clue is this is what terrorists yell. You got all the letters, and they're like, this MAGA country, and they still don't get it.
Yep.
That'd be funny.
I'll fly out next week and we'll film it. Anyway, seriously, Eunice Kathrada, who has been in the news many times with outrageous statements, just recently was preaching again at Muslim Youth Victoria in Victoria, British Columbia, and he said that is the infidels and polytheists, he said they accuse Islam with false accusations, eh? No, he's in Canada, but he's not Canadian. So anyway, yeah, they should just go to Tim's and get a coffee. Anyway, okay, enough of that. Yes.
I don't know about that. A
Yes.
boat.
What are you
A boat,
talking
they say.
about?
They say a boot.
Anyway, they accuse Islam with these false accusations.
Canadians.
Because they are the enemies of Allah. How is it that they are not the enemies of Allah when they insult Allah? What does Allah say in Quran about himself? He begets not, nor is he begotten. Anyway, he goes on to say, how are they not the enemies of Allah when they accuse Allah of being tight-fisted, of being stingy, of being generous? The Jews said that when Allah responded to them by saying, may their hands be shackled. That's Quran 564. He's saying that the non-Muslims are the enemies of Allah. And this is a guy who's a Canadian imam. I don't know, he might be a Canadian citizen. Certainly he is preaching to people who are clearly Canadian citizens. And is he not preaching essentially that they should become enemies of the state, that they are enemies of the state because the state is made up of enemies of Allah?
Sounds about right.
I don't know, I think Canada's got a lot of trouble, Anyway, we also do as well because we are out of time. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a marvelous pleasure to bring you this grim news. You might find that paradoxical, but we always have hope because we know that in the end, evil does not triumph. And so ultimately, the jihad will end. And the reason for this week in jihad, there will come a week when we will say, we got nothing. But that week is not likely to be this one, ladies and gentlemen. And so we are likely to be back next week, all things being equal, but you never know. The sicknesses are still out there, and we are still under their spell. But God willing, we will be here. Until then, keep careful. Keep clear of the jihadis, and God bless you.